Question of the week. How to control our action during conversation between spouses. How to handle when he does not give respect. My mind says, why should I give him respect? And later on, this mind has realized that he or she was wrong, obviously. So an important point comes here, which is relationship. And I was constantly mentioning that we are going to be dealing with relationship. Do we know what relationship really is? Because if you knew relationship, you should not have this problem. Here, the problem is straight and simple. When an action was performed by an individual not liked by you, he's performing the action with his body and mind, and you're reacting to that action with your body and mind. So you reacted. Do you know why you reacted? Because you did not understand this relationship. If you understand relationship correctly, then you should not be reacting the way you reacted and then later on regret it.
But Swamiji, I have a question here. So in this question, it's very clear that the other individual was not giving respect back to the person, right? Like fundamentally, that's not a right thing. But that goes back to what you were saying earlier, which is that it's two reflected images speaking to one another. So that other reflected image in this scenario, which is the husband, is not showing respect because that individual, the reflected image, does not know the concept that we're learning here. So are you saying that it is up to us, like the people in this class, to take the concept that we know and apply it in that scenario, which is fine. You can, obviously that's what we should be doing because on a daily basis, we're going to be encountering many people who have not taken this lesson, who do not know the difference between the big I and the small I, who do not know what the consciousness is. That's all totally fine. But is it still acceptable for a person to not receive respect? Like, isn't that fundamentally like a bad thing?
Who wants respect?
The small I.
Which you're not.
Which is understandable. But what if that, again, like, I don't know who this person is, who's asked this
Whoever it is.
question,
Whoever
it is, but what if that person is dealing with abuse? What if it gets to a point where that not getting that respect is getting to a point where it's abusive?
Well, thankfully, it is not. The information I have is not with relation to an abuse, a physical abuse. Here it was more an abuse through an action. I'm going to elucidate a little bit on this one. So the sequence was, as I'm told, and I'm hoping that I'm right in this, that there was a phone call which came to the lady, and it was an important conversation where the caller wanted to speak with the spouse at the end of this conversation, I believe. So when she took the phone to the man who was already on another phone talking about something, the woman obviously doesn't know what was going on there, but she simply goes to the man and shows this phone and says, there's a phone here. And the man says, that's what he did. Go away. Literally with the anger on his face. We do this often. Please understand. The reason why I'm saying this is we need to stop this ourselves, first of all. We do this. Why? We don't understand relationship and we claim we know relationship. It's I really don't understand why this happens to people. And being in relationship for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, this happens. Do you know your relationship? Do you know what relationship? Relationship is all about responsibility. That's it. Responsibility means you need to know the other person. If you don't know the other person, you're not in relationship. You're in relationship with the image that you have about that person, whatever that person has been doing to you so far. And if that image that you have formed about that person is already negative, an action like this is going to really create a fire in your belly. You feel like just pouncing on the man. You say, what the hell are you doing? But you built that already, an image about him based on his actions of the past. So are you relying on the actions of the past? Is that how relationships are built? So you're not looking at the man directly. That's what I said, seeing. You're seeing him through this behavior that's already coming in between you and the man. In this particular case, that particular instance came in between. So the behavior has completely blocked your understanding of the person. You're not seeing him. You're seeing only the behavior, which is blocking your view from seeing the man himself. Now the question about self-prestige. Should he not show the prestige, the respect to you? The answer is yes, 100%. But what if he is not showing? Are you going to be affected? So in this instance, what would have happened? The phone was shown. Apparently, this phone must have been from an important person. So this lady went to interrupt another conversation that the man was having. And the man said, go away. So the woman reacted, probably violently. I don't know. I'm not privy to that. I was not in this place of incident. So I'm just making some conjecture here and saying maybe she reacted also, saying, to hell with you. You also go to hell. Man says, go to hell. She says, go to hell also. And she's gone back to her room. Instead of that, you are the consciousness, which is in Sanskrit, we call it Aham Brahmasmi. I brought the phone, important conversation. I understand it's important for him as well. To me, it was important. To him also, it's important. He did this. What if I just walked away from him and went to my room without any reaction at all? Because I know relationship. I do not see him through this behavior that happened in between, blocking my view. I negated that behavior. I see him. I see him as a person going through something, reason for which he would have done this reaction. I see him. I do not see him through this behavior. I saw him directly, and I just move away and go there. At the end of that conversation of the man, what do you think would happen? Please tell me. When you did not react and you went to your room and not even shut the room, just you continue to do your work, what do you think would happen to the man is my question to you.
If he is a self-aware man, then he would go to the woman and he would say, I'm sorry for doing that. I was just in a situation where I was also in a um phone call and you interrupted me. So I'm sorry. However, I genuinely believe, and I'm not trying to be pessimistic, but I feel that there are more people in this world who would not naturally go and apologize.
People don't understand apology. And they are comfortable apologizing with all the third parties, all strangers, except the people who they think are very well known to them, like parents, like children. These words are not used in between this such an important relationship where every day you have to deal with each other. Amazing, is that right? You take such relationship for granted. You think you know that relationship. You don't know. Because even at home, in fact, at home, not even outside, in fact, at home, you are never seeing anybody at all but the image that you have of the person, which is the SRT. That's all you're seeing. So when you constantly do this, and that's what happens between spouses, particularly, when you're constantly looking at each other, the pseudo image, the pseudo man, the pseudo woman, you're never going to get into the reality. The reality is both of you are the consciousness only. Consciousness will never behave like this. The other question is, should I all the time just forgive him? The answer is, unfortunately, yes. Why? Not because you're a great saint here, because I want peace. I do not want to remember this reaction that he did because I'm a consciousness. I don't want the small I to suffer because of an ignorant I on the other side. What is your objective in life? Why are we doing applied Vedanta? The only objective is to have a peaceful life so that you don't have a tumultuous death. Is that not enough for you to change for your own self? To hell with him. We don't care about the world. We care about ourselves because I want my death to be seamless. I don't want messy death. Would you not take this effort? I understand everybody must be very far away from death from today, for sure. But
But
that doesn't.
Swamiji, I think I want to disagree with you on one thing here.
Sure.
Because I agree that, yeah, you want to live with peace, okay? But when you are in a married relationship, which is different from a friendship where you are not bound to this person, in a married relationship, you are bound to someone. And as much as you want to create peace for your within yourself and the between the big I and the small I, there's only so much a person can take. There's only so much disrespect a person can take. Now, it may be different if this relationship was like a 20-year relationship and they've been together for 20 years. But in the initial stages of like a marriage, there should be respect. Do you not agree? For that bad image to not be created in the person's mind. In the early stages, that's important. But even after 20 years, if this is what the person has been facing for so long, should it not be the right decision to not, I'm not saying to leave the person, but it's not okay to accept that.
So here comes the question of endurance. And an important principle in establishing and maintaining relationship is very simple. If first point is you have every right to choose a relationship, to continue with the relationship is an entirely a personal prerogative, without a question. So if 20 years of endurance did not teach us a lesson that this man is incorrigible, then you have a choice either to leave or to endure. That choice is always available to us. Question is, how much can you tolerate? I fully agree. The problem actually comes a lot during the initial phase of your married life because that's when the real SRT starts to play between the two people. The original SRT, which was the reason for you to come together, they die. They are all floating. Now the real SRT will come into picture. So there's nothing really has changed. Because we always say, in a relationship, particularly spousal relationship, we say, the man has changed completely. No, he has not changed at all. That was what he was originally. He had changed earlier, before the marriage, unfortunately, which we didn't identify. So you have to be, first of all, conscious. And there are many unmarried people here, I'm sure, and married as well. So you have to be sure that what is going to be displayed at this point in time, at the beginning of a relationship, is all going to be the floating SRT. That's the reality of life. Because he wants to impress you, you want to impress him, that's natural. But you have to be aware of the principle that there is a core SRT that's going to come up or unfold when you get together under one roof. You have to be aware of it. So it's all about being aware. When you're aware, you're prepared for eventuality. And I agree totally. But unfortunately, I have to say this. If you got into a relationship where the man does not understand respect to the woman in a relationship, that's your karma. That is your karma. In fact, it is the karma that brings the two people together, either to experience joy in that relationship called the joint karma, or to experience sorrow in that joint relationship. So if you had a bad partner, you can only mend to an extent. That's karma. Or you say, I have a choice. I end this relationship once and for all. Thankfully. And nobody says that marriage is that principle in which you got to die. And most marriages end in this kind of difficult circumstances through and through several years of this relationship is because two individuals with completely different SRT configurations are brought together and made to interact with each other with no script behind you. It's a scriptless world. Unfortunately, you don't know. You're just pushed into a situation, or you push yourself into a relationship, not knowing, first of all, what is most important. Both sides, I'm saying. Principle number one in relationship is to understand I am responsible here. And that means a lot. That means a lot. But nobody understands. What is responsibility? Responsibility is I am building this relationship to last, not to break. That's a responsibility. If one understands that from start, with a good SRT understanding, you're home. And one last point. If you constantly exhibit a behavior based on S, there will come a time when the hard person on the other side must melt. This is my conviction. Whether it happens or not, this is my conviction. You may have to probably try for 25 years, maybe, but any person on the other side will give in to S. For some, it may be 5 years. For some, it may be 5 minutes. For some, it may be 50 years. Question is, can you endure? You can if you're in consciousness. Because nothing thereafter bothers you. Just imagine for a minute, how much of nonsense is taking place within the space. Space, nothing happens to it. It just remains by itself. We get worried for every little thing because of that element called mind. Because it does not know what it wants. That's the problem of this mind. All the time it is moving from A to B to C to Z, whatever it is. When you don't know what you want, of course you're going to be in trouble. And all that it wants is things that it suits its demand, not knowing what the demand is.
So Guruji, I have a question. So you said it's up to the person, like up to which level you can endure or tolerate something, right? So does this mean that we have to increase our patience level? Like just tolerate until the other person changes, or like anyone for that matter?
I'd rather answer this question by saying, how do you take that? How do you increase that patience level?
Just like,
Isn't that a better idea? And you need to try that. Because all of you are in some relationship or other, not necessarily spousal relationship. There are relationship, father, mother. They're all sour relationships. Here's the answer to that question. The moment you eliminate the ego, what is going to flow through in that elimination is goodness. The ability to tolerate, the ability to be really caring for other people. That's going to blossom out the moment you get the freedom from the I, the small I, which we are not willing to do. I did not want to talk about it in the earlier discussion while answering the earlier question, because it means you need to crush your me, the I factor completely, which we are not willing to do. That is the only reason for this. If you're willing to completely forego the me, the I, which clearly is a false image, then from that freedom will emerge so much of love, so much of care, so much of empathy, so much of tolerance is unbelievable. You need to experience it. I cannot tell you this and make you do it. You try it, see what happens to you. If you start realizing that love that comes in such an abundance that you won't be able to withstand the love. When you remove that me, the I from you, and start looking at the other person, not from the I, but from the consciousness I, it's a whole new scene that happens to you. Then you just become a witness to everything. Things that happen to your own body and mind, you just become a witness. Physical pain, psychological pain, what's happening to the world outside, everything, you just remain as a witness principle, which is what consciousness is all about. But you need to try it yourself. I'm not going to impose. The imposition is not part of applied Vedanta. Directions, do it, don't do it, do's, don'ts, no, they don't apply. They don't come in applied Vedanta. Please send in your questions if you have more by Thursday. You can send it either by text message to the common group, or you can send it to me directly. We can keep it as anonymous as it has been so far. And wish you all a lovely relationship, which is based on real understanding of relationship and the responsibility that goes along with understanding of relationship. That relationship not seen through the image or the ideas that you have about the other person, but eliminating that idea completely and looking at that person no different from you, because both of you are the consciousness. Apply it. Apply it. You got 1 week now. If any one of you can come back next week and say, I did it and this was the result, you understood and you've started to apply. That's the reality. I cannot get into your head and mind and say whether You have understood this principle. Are you applying this? That's not possible for me. All the time I say that. You have to do it yourself.